You keep waiting for the perfect moment, the big break, the sudden leap, but that's not how the rich rise. You must think beyond your current limits, but begin with what's right in front of you. Your strength is in your small daily actions done with purpose. When you move like a strategist, not a gambler, you build unstoppable momentum. You don't need more luck. You need to act like wealth is already yours, one step at a time. In a few moments, I will teach you why thinking big but starting small is the richest strategy you'll ever learn. You must begin with a vision larger than your life. You are not here to drift through existence. You are here to create, to build, to leave a mark. And yet most people you meet settle into small thoughts, small ambitions, small lives, not because that is their fate, but because they never dared to imagine anything grander. You can feel it, can't you? That quiet desire inside, the whisper that says you were meant for more. But then comes the resistance. What if I fail? What if I'm not enough? But ask yourself, what happens if you never try? You must first give yourself permission to think bigger than the life handed to you. All achievement begins with an idea, one that pulls you forward, stretches your identity, and makes you uncomfortable with the ordinary. The man who dreams of building a great enterprise or leading a community or transforming his family's destiny, he is not arrogant. He is aware of the power of vision, and so must you be. Now, what does it mean to think big? It means you stop measuring your future by your current limitations. You do not look at your empty wallet and conclude poverty. You do not look at your surroundings and conclude permanence. Instead, you close your eyes and see in detail what others call impossible. But how do you hold that vision? You make it vivid. You define it. You write it down. You revisit it every morning and night. You speak it aloud until it becomes your standard. You make it so real in your heart that no doubt can erase it. Imagine you walk into a bare field, just soil and silence, but in your mind you see a house, a garden, a barn, a legacy. That's how great men begin. And you too must begin there. Have you dared to write down a vision that scares you? Have you stretched beyond what's comfortable and created a picture of your future that wakes you up early and keeps you up late? If not, why not now? The power is in starting small but daily. The grandest vision will rot in the mind of the man who never starts. Too many people make the mistake of waiting for the perfect moment to begin. They plan for years. They dream endlessly. But no seed ever grows without first being planted. You must understand this. What makes the rich, the powerful, the influential different is not the size of their beginning, but the consistency of it. Every towering oak tree began as a hidden acorn. Every mansion rose from a single strike of a hammer. So must your future rise from a single action repeated with discipline. Why is starting small the secret? Because that's the only way anything real begins. Big dreams overwhelm the undisciplined mind. Small steps sharpen your focus, build your habit, and feed your confidence. You do not climb the mountain in one leap. You take one step, then another, and then another, until the summit comes into view. What must you do then? Begin something today that echoes your vision. Write one page, make one call, study one principle, save one coin, wake 1 hour earlier. You may think it's too little to matter, but little things done daily build the foundation of greatness. Picture this. You rise at dawn while others sleep. You sit at your desk. You read. You write. You plan. You move your vision forward by a fraction. A week passes, a month, a year, and now that tiny step you once took, it has become the staircase. Have you been waiting for permission to begin? Stop. Start where you are, with what you have. And do not miss a day, because the man who starts small and stays consistent becomes the man others call unstoppable. Discipline is the currency of the rich. You may believe that money is the difference, that wealth comes from opportunity or luck or who you know. But the longer you live, the more clearly you'll see discipline is the true divider. It is what separates the dreamer from the doer, the follower from the leader, the poor from the rich. Every wealthy man, every great leader, every builder of nations was first a master of himself. He rose when it was hard. He worked when it was quiet. He said no when it was tempting. That is not punishment, it is preparation. Why does discipline matter? Because you cannot command the world until you first command your habits. Without it, your plans remain air. With it, your future becomes steel. What must you do? Build rituals. Wake before dawn. Guard your thoughts. Speak with purpose. Finish what you start. Take care of your body, your word, your work. Do what you said you would do, especially when you no longer feel like it. Imagine this. While others linger in comfort, you rise, dress, train your body, train your mind, not because anyone is watching, but because you refuse to be average. Each day, you deposit effort into the bank of your destiny. One coin, one brick, one act at a time. Are you trading your future for short-term pleasure? Or are you building discipline like a rich man stacks gold with consistency, care, and commitment? The answer will determine the course of your life. Learn to value time like the rich do gold. There is one thing you possess that is more precious than silver, rarer than diamonds, and more fleeting than opportunity: time. The rich do not merely manage their time, they protect it like treasure, because they know every hour wasted is a seed never planted, a fortune never built. And yet, how easily do men give away their hours in idle talk, in wandering thought, in comfort and routine, not realizing those hours are the building blocks of their fate. Why is time the true wealth? Because it is the only resource you cannot earn back. Once spent, it is gone. A man can lose his money and earn it again, but a man who squanders his time has lost what no vault can restore. What must you do then? Treat every hour like it belongs to your future. Set blocks of time aside for thinking, creating, planning, and refining your craft. Refuse to be a slave to distraction. Learn to enjoy solitude. Learn to focus. Learn to be alone with your vision until it sharpens like a blade. Picture this: two men live the same year. One fills it with purpose, skill, conversation, clarity. The other lets it drift by in ease. At the end of the year, they are no longer equals. One is 10 steps closer to his dream. The other is 10 steps deeper in regret. Are you guarding your time with the seriousness it deserves, or are you treating it like it's endless? The difference will show in your results, in your wealth, in your legacy. You must learn before you earn you. Say you want success. You say you want freedom. But let me ask you, have you earned the right to have it? Not in words, not in dreams, but in the daily work of learning the craft that leads to it. Most men chase money before they've built the discipline to hold it. They scramble for results before they've mastered the process. And that's why most men never truly rise. They treat wealth as a reward to be chased instead of a responsibility to be deserved. They want the crown without the weight. But wealth doesn't come to the loud, it comes to the ready. To the man who has forged his mind into a weapon sharp enough to cut through confusion, through chaos, through time. You see, learning matters more than earning, especially in the beginning, because knowledge is the foundation of sustainable power. Money without wisdom is a curse. It vanishes as fast as it arrives. But wisdom, that stays, that compounds, that turns every experience, every failure, every loss into raw material for greater victories. Without wisdom, one mistake can set you back a decade. But with it, you can rise from ruins. With it, you build something no storm can shake. So what must you do? You must train your mind like a soldier trains his body, relentlessly, quietly, daily. Read when others scroll. Reflect when others speak. Ask questions when others boast. Take notes, watch, learn. Study the principles that govern success. Study character. Study how powerful men move, speak, react, command, not with jealousy, but with intensity. Their lives are textbooks. Their habits are clues. Study them. And above all, practice. Not in front of crowds, not for applause, but in solitude, in silence, when no one is watching. That's where greatness is born, not in spotlight, but in shadow. Turn your room into a war room. Turn your evenings into laboratories. Every idle hour is a brick in your future, or a crack in it. Imagine this. You're not wealthy yet, not famous. You work a modest job. But while others relax, you train. You read books no one else will touch. You memorize strategies no one else even knows exist. You ask yourself, what am I missing? What skill do I need? What principle am I violating? And every day you fix one thing. You get sharper, you get faster, you build quietly. Then one day the shift happens, not in public, but in you. Your voice changes. Your eyes hold certainty. You walk with authority because now you know. And when a man knows, not guesses, not hopes, but knows, he becomes unstoppable. So I ask you again, are you putting in the quiet hours that wisdom demands? Or are you still chasing rewards you've done nothing to earn? What would happen if, for the next 6 months, you studied like your life depended on it? Because the truth is, it does. Build a mind that does not depend on approval. There comes a defining moment in every man's journey, a quiet fork in the road, where he must choose, will I live for the applause or will I live for the result? One path is loud, seductive, lined with cheers, likes, praise, and approval. The other is silent, uncertain, and often lonely, but it leads somewhere real. Most men choose the first. They spend their lives performing, not producing, speaking, not building. They chase recognition over results, validation over value, and that's why they remain ordinary. They talk like leaders but think like beggars, constantly asking the world for permission to be who they are. You must not be like them. Approval is the enemy of greatness. Why? Because it makes your soul dependent on the unpredictable moods of others. It turns you into a puppet. It strips you of your voice and replaces it with an echo of public opinion. And no man can rise while carrying the burden of needing to be liked. You cannot be bold and agreeable. You cannot command and conform. A man who is afraid to be disliked is also afraid to be different. And if you're afraid to be different, you'll never be better. To become powerful, to think big, to act rich, you must be willing to offend the average. You must be okay with being misunderstood, doubted, mocked, and even hated. Why? Because greatness always begins in opposition. The crowd will never cheer for the man who walks ahead of them. They will resist him until he wins. So how do you build this unshakable mind? You begin by questioning your motives. You strip your actions bare. Every word you speak, ask, am I saying this to express truth or to perform safety? Every decision you make, ask, is this who I am or who they want me to be? You practice solitude. You get comfortable with silence. You become your own mirror, your own jury, your own source of approval. And you elevate the people around you, not those who flatter you, but those who sharpen you. Surround yourself with truth tellers, not comfort givers. Picture this. You share an idea, your peers laugh. They say, it'll never work. But you don't flinch, you don't argue, you simply nod and go to work. Days pass, then months. A year later, the same men who once mocked you now come seeking your advice. What changed? Not the world's opinion, but your results. And the results came because you didn't need their applause. You had your own conviction. So I ask you, are you still secretly waiting to be told you're good enough? Or have you declared once and for all that your future is not up for group discussion? Build a mind that doesn't beg for approval, and you'll build a life that no one can deny. That is power. That is freedom. That is respect. Act with certainty even in uncertainty. The path to greatness is not paved with certainty. It is riddled with doubt, fog, and noise. It rarely looks like a golden road lined with signs that say success this way. More often, it feels like walking blindfolded through a storm, unsure of what's ahead, but moving anyway. That's the truth no one tells you. The journey doesn't begin with confidence. It begins with motion. And clarity, that comes after you've stepped, not before. Most men freeze because they're waiting for the moment when everything feels right. They want to be sure before they leap. But that moment never comes. The world doesn't reward the hesitant. It doesn't pause for the man who waits. It keeps spinning. And those who move, even with trembling legs, are the ones who gain ground. Success is not about perfect timing. It's about making a decision and honoring it with consistent, relentless action. Every giant you've ever admired, every king, every tycoon, every conqueror had to move forward while surrounded by unknowns. What made them different wasn't certainty, it was courage clothed in decisiveness. Fear makes men stall. They want guarantees. They want to know it'll work before they risk looking like a fool. But here's the secret. It's supposed to look messy in the beginning. It's supposed to be unclear. If it were obvious, everyone would do it. The path is hidden not to punish you, but to filter you, to see if you have the will to walk before the map appears, to see if you'll keep building when no one is watching. That is the test of every great man. Will he trust himself enough to move without applause, without assurance? Success isn't built by avoiding risk. It's built by becoming the kind of man who moves anyway. The rich and powerful aren't braver by nature. They're simply more decisive by habit. They've trained themselves to act, to gather enough information to start, and then figure the rest out on the way. They know that perfection is the enemy of execution. And they know that waiting too long kills more dreams than failure ever could. So what must you do? You train your reflex to move. You stop needing the full picture before you act. You set a plan, however rough, and you begin. You walk straight into the storm with your principles in hand. You trust that your preparation has power. You trust that your values will guide you. You trust that movement brings momentum and that the man who refuses to stop cannot be stopped. Picture this. Two men are offered the same opportunity. One sits down and starts analyzing. He asks questions. He waits for the perfect scenario, for the stars to align. The other gathers what he can in a day and starts building. He makes mistakes. He learns. He adjusts. A year later, the first man is still on step one, still wondering, still asking. The second man is profitable, powerful, already onto his next move. Why? Because he didn't wait for certainty, he created it through action. So let me ask you, where in your life are you hesitating? What decision are you postponing because you're waiting for a sign? What if the sign isn't coming? What if you are the sign? What if the very moment you move, the path will begin to unfold? You must stop waiting for clarity to strike like lightning. You must stop hoping for a perfect moment. Instead, create the moment. Decide, commit, act. Do it messy. Do it confused. Do it unsure, because hesitation is the death of momentum, and momentum, once built, becomes your greatest ally. Understand this. Greatness is not the reward of the perfect, it is the reward of the bold. The man who moves in uncertainty becomes the man who commands certainty, because he didn't wait for it, he earned it, step by step, decision by decision, battle by battle. So go. Right now, move toward what matters, not when it's easy, not when it's obvious, but especially when it's messy. That is how leaders rise. That is how fortunes are built. That is how you become the man you were meant to be. Create before you consume. You were not born to sit quietly in the corner of life, watching others make history. You were not designed to spend your days scrolling, watching, reacting, and applauding what others have dared to create. No, you were born with hands to build, a voice to declare, and a mind to shape the very fabric of your world. Inside you is the spark that built cities, wrote books, launched revolutions, and raised empires. And yet, how many waste that fire? How many spend their entire lives consuming but never contributing? Look around. We live in an age of infinite information. People read endlessly, listen to podcasts, devour videos, and quote experts. And still, they are stuck. Still, they feel hollow. Still, they have no mark to show for it. Why? Because consumption without creation is spiritual stagnation. It gives the illusion of progress while quietly robbing you of real power. Your mind becomes full, but your life remains empty. Knowledge becomes noise without expression. And wisdom dies unused. This matters more than you think, because creation is the highest form of growth. When you create, when you write your thoughts, when you share your perspective, when you build something out of nothing, you activate a deeper part of your brain, your will, and your purpose. You don't just learn, you become. Creation is transformation. It takes the unseen potential inside of you and gives it form, shape, and weight. It demands courage. It reveals character. It turns scattered thought into sharpened vision. And this is why you must start with it. Before you absorb the world, you must add to it. Set creation as the first act of your day, not the last. Don't begin with scrolling. Don't begin with opinions. Begin by declaring something of your own. Write a few sentences, sketch a plan, speak an idea aloud, plant a flag, take a swing, put your fingerprints on the day. Before anyone else's opinions, mark your mind. Even if it's rough, even if it's awkward, even if no one sees it. That's not the point. The point is discipline. The point is momentum. Every time you create, you reinforce the truth that you are not a passive consumer of life. You are a builder. And builders don't wait to feel ready. They get to work and figure it out along the way. Imagine this. You wake up before the noise begins, the world is quiet, the light is still dim, and while others sleep or stumble into distraction, you create. You open your journal, you draft a rough chapter, you record your thoughts, you outline a plan, you shape the invisible into something visible. 1 hour later, you've already grown because you've done something. You haven't just prepared, you've planted. You've claimed a piece of the day as your own. That's power. That's ownership. Compare that to the man who wakes and immediately reaches for comfort, for input, for distraction. He begins by absorbing what others think, feel, and believe. And by noon, he wonders why he feels lost, why he lacks clarity and drive. It's because he forgot to create. He forgot to act. He forgot to lead his own life before letting the world lead him. So let me ask you, are you starting your days as a builder or a bystander? Are you creating or are you hiding behind consumption? Are you expressing your own mind or outsourcing your identity to the noise around you? Don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't wait for inspiration. Don't wait to be asked. Begin now. Begin small, but begin. Write something, no matter how ugly. Speak something, no matter how uncertain. Build something, no matter how broken. Because the man who creates daily, even badly, will one day outrun the man who waits to create perfectly. The world is shaped by doers, by builders, by men who risk being misunderstood, mocked, ignored, but they press on. And in time, they don't just consume greatness, they become it. So rise, create, repeat, and watch the world bend slowly to the shape of your hands. Choose pain now or suffer later. No man escapes pain. That is not a pessimistic view. It is a universal law. The only decision you truly control is when you will face it. Do you take it head on right now while you still have breath in your lungs and fight in your bones, or do you run from it, postpone it, cover it up with distractions only to be met by it later, stronger, colder, and wrapped in the cruel costume of regret? Make no mistake, success is not an escape from pain. It is an embrace of it. It is the choice to suffer now on your terms so you can live free later. The successful know this. They don't chase ease. They endure the discomfort early. They taste the bitterness of rejection, discipline, sacrifice, failure, not because they enjoy it, but because they understand it. They've made peace with a truth most men run from, that pain is not your enemy. Avoiding it is. Why is this truth so often ignored? Because comfort is seductive. It has a soft voice. It wraps itself in justification. It tells you just one more day, just one more excuse, just one more hour of rest. You'll start tomorrow. And the dangerous part is it feels reasonable. It feels like it cares about you, but it doesn't. Comfort is not your friend. It is the subtle assassin of potential. While it offers warmth in the moment, it slowly robs you of the life you could have had. Look closely at the men who have wasted their lives. They didn't fall all at once. They didn't make one massive mistake. They made small, comfortable decisions again and again. They hit snooze. They avoided confrontation. They said maybe later when the moment was now. And those small choices became chains. Chains of missed chances, untapped strength, and unearned success. That's what happens when you delay pain. It doesn't disappear. It grows teeth. It turns into guilt, anxiety, weakness. The pain you delay becomes the prison you must live in. But there is another way, a better way, a way only the strong choose. You face the pain early. You do the thing that others flinch from. You speak the truth others bury. You show up when it's inconvenient. You lift when it burns. You keep your word when no one else will. You train your mind to say, I will suffer now so I don't have to suffer later. How do you do this? You begin with the small pains. You make them your training ground. You wake up before the comfort sets in. You eat what fuels you, not what soothes you. You sit down to work while others scroll. You choose the awkward conversation over polite silence. You reject the easy win in favor of long-term mastery. You don't do it to appear noble. You do it because this is the forge. This is where your will is shaped into steel. Pain, when chosen, becomes a tool. Each day you build. Imagine this. You wake up, and before the world has time to distract you, you select your hard task. One thing, one challenge. Maybe it's writing that chapter. Maybe it's making that call. Maybe it's sitting in silence and facing your thoughts. And you do it, not halfway, not with resentment, fully, with resolve. And then you do it again tomorrow, and the day after that. At first it's small, but over time it compounds. You start to change. You stand taller. Your voice carries weight. Your decisions gain authority. When pressure comes, you don't shatter, you respond because you've practiced pain. You've befriended it. While others were busy avoiding discomfort, you were building endurance. While others prayed for ease, you trained in storms. And this is where true power begins. Not in talent, not in comfort, but in the daily choice to embrace what burns. That's the kind of strength that cannot be borrowed. It cannot be faked. It must be earned through effort, through discomfort, through persistence. So now ask yourself honestly, are you trading a little pain now for a mountain of regret later? Are you giving away your future in exchange for an hour of ease? Or are you brave enough, disciplined enough to face what hurts today, knowing that on the other side lies a life of freedom, clarity, and strength that most men will never taste? The choice is always yours. Pain is coming either way.